Just wanted to talk about using case law to figure out how to debt collectors or how to defeat the debt collectors. A lot of times we hear people talking about the law, but we don't really know what happens in court if you try to use that law or if you sue somebody to use that law. So it's this real good case. I advise everyone to go look up themselves and read it. But I just got some little bit of it I wanted to go over with y'all just to show y'all how the case law can really help out because it's some beautiful stuff in here. So basically, it's a case called Hinkle, Hinkle versus Midland Credit Management. That's the debt collector. So this lady, she sued, to give you a brief summary before I go in depth of what the case is. She sued Midland because they was reporting information on their credit report and just not listening to her. They saying we can do this, we can do that. She telling them how to validate it. She disputing it. They not listening basically. So she's like, all right, I'm gonna sue them. So she sued them. They got what they call a summary judgment. That's basically where they go right to the judge and they say, Judge, dismiss this. We don't even need to go to a jury. What they saying is crazy. So they got it dismissed, but Hinkle, she wasn't giving up. She got it. She appealed it to the appellate court. You can always appeal a decision. So she appealed it, and then it was reversed when she appealed it. So now, what are the specifics of the case, and what can we learn from this case? So the first thing is they go into the definition of how they view a debt buyer and how a debt buyer should act. So when we're looking at this, and remember Hinkle versus Midland, it's saying the debt buyer, and then remember there's what they call a junk debt buyer as well. So when you think of junk debt buyer, here's three names I want you to remember, and they're probably the most three prominent debt collectors that you're gonna see: Midland Credit Management, LVNV, and sometimes they hide as being resurgent, and then it is portfolio recovery. Those are right there, your top three, what they call junk debt buyers, because they got debt buyers and then they have junk debt buyers. So a junk debt buyer is what they call somebody that buys the debt further down the line. So that's why they call them, because it's usually uncollectible, and that's usually sometimes in the contract. So this is what these three do: Midland, portfolio, LVNV. I tell you, LVNV sometimes resurgent. So they buy the debt after other people have bought the debt and can collect on it. But so let's talk about what this L LVNV, not MV. That might be a spelling error. And then resurgent is the same as, they kind of the same. Resurgent usually say they collecting on LVNV, try to switch, but same thing. And then Midland, Midland. So yeah, back to this case, Hinkle versus Midland. So right here it's saying, it said the debt of a secondary market essentially the same prerogatives as the original creditor. The debt buyer may attempt to collect the debt itself internally or hire a collection agent. So, and then remember also as well, just because an account is charged off doesn't mean that the company can't continue to collect on the debt. And then you're going to see that here in this case too, how this plays out as it goes on. And this is something that you can follow because you see this is how the courts look at it. So we no longer got to worry about, because I always tell you, when you hear people telling you about all these laws, this is two parts to it. It's the interpretation and then the implementation. You can say it says this already, but if you haven't seen that being used in action, then that's still left to interpretation how you implement it. So keep that in mind though. So now we're seeing how the judges interpret it, and then we're seeing how it's implemented. So that's why case law is better than this consumer law. So I don't even know what consumer law is. That's something that's been coined by these people. So yeah, I don't even know what consumer law is. So back to it. So now it's basically telling you the process and steps. Say when the initial buyer of a debt is unable to collect, the buyer can recoup a fraction of his losses by including the debt in a portfolio. Remember, they buy it in bulk, in a portfolio of uncollected debts and selling down the line to another debt buyer, a down the line buyer, for an even deeper discount. And it says the down the line buyer can in turn choose whether to engage in collection activities or to sell the debt buyer further down the line. Debts have been repeatedly bought and sold in this manner are sometimes referred to as junk. This is the court still telling you. So this is where they get the word junk from. So that's why they're junk debt buyers. It's been repeatedly sold down the line. So we say, okay, When the original creditor sells a debt, the original creditor relinquishes the right to collect the debt and transfers the right to the debt buyer. So remember, it's two different types. If you owe a debt collector or if you owe a company, they can still choose to collect or they can sell it. They can sell it. So remember that as well. And it says this allows the original creditor to wash his hands of the debt while still recouping a fraction of his losses on the secondary debt market. And it said a buyer of the debt on the secondary debt market enjoys essentially, oh, that was the first page, the same prerogative as the original creditor. I would say, so now they say this case, which it was two different debts that Midland claimed to have purchased from two different other debt buyers. And they say in this case involves two such junk debts, the GE Meyer and the T-Mobile. They say that Midland say that they purchased, and here's the word, as is. So what is as is? And that's like buying a car as is. So I mean, however it was when you got it is however it is. We not claiming no warranties or anything. So basically, in the event of talking about debt, what they basically saying is we're not attesting to the accuracy of this information that you got. So remember now, these are things that you're looking at when you're dealing with a debt collector to know if they bought the debt as is and the original creditor is not attesting to how the completeness and accuracy of this information. Now you understand from the reverse end, these are things that you want to call them on. Say, hey, where is this? You know, they can call it a full forward agreement. And that's just basically the process of everything that happens. It said which law says you can get $1,000 per violation. That's not really considered a law. Getting $1,000 is what they call statutory damages. So it's different type of damages you can get. You know, they got emotional, they got punitive, they got statutory. Statutory is linked to that $1,000. So that's not really a law. That's just the max you can get on the statutory damages to clear that up. And then, so back to the case. So now we talking about, they said Midland purchase as is, and here go another key I want y'all to pay into. It say without account level documentation. After the down the line journey from one debt buyer to another, Midland acquired the debt account originating with GE Meyer an amount of $357. Midland purchased debt from AIS Services, another buyer of charge-off consumer debt. Say the debt was sold as is, save for a limited warranty. AIS that the information associated with this kind of materially true and accurate. Here's another thing I want you to watch out for. When the debt collectors, when they do those affidavits, they're saying stuff like this. Oh, to the best of our knowledge, this is true and accurate. That's unacceptable. The best of your knowledge, if you don't got the original source attesting to the accuracy of it, your opinion of the accuracy of it is irrelevant. And you're going to see later too, when she disputed, the dispute process that the credit bureaus do. So this is a beautiful segment too. People are always talking about freezing these secondary bureaus, which don't exist. Remember, they're just credit reporting agencies. It's different reporting agencies for multiple different things. So it's no such bureaus and it's no secondary or first. The three that people use is for credit reporting. So Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. If you're doing something else, there's another credit bureau that they're doing. So just realize that, or credit reporting agency. They got me saying bureau. So reporting agency. So now you're talking about when you say that you're freezing these other agencies to stop the bureau from verifying, I'm going to break it down to you in this case law and show you why you don't need to freeze them, because the credit bureaus are going to tell you what they do when you file a dispute with no documentation. They're going to tell you what they asked the original creditor or the debt collector to do. So please stay tuned to hear the credit bureaus say themselves what they do in a dispute, so it'll assure you what's going on when you file a dispute. Who do I sue to get off check systems? Well, check systems, to tell you the truth, that's not my specialty. So I couldn't even weigh in on check systems. It's some things I could tell you to try to do, but you want me to tell you things that I've experienced myself and I'm confident in that work. So I wouldn't be able to advise you on check systems, to tell you the truth. I don't have much experience there. So now we're seeing, it's saying, listen to this. Charged off debt is deemed uncollectible and treated as a loss for accounting purposes. So when now we're talking, this is the court now telling you this is how things are viewed. This is not my opinion. This is a judge right now in court in the case telling you this is how they view things. So when someone tells you a charge off should automatically get a 1099-C, remember, it has to be over $600. But when they say, oh, it's a charge off, or it should be a 1099-C, that's misinformation, because we're going to listen to, I'm going to read it again. Charged off debt is deemed uncollectible and treated as a loss for accounting purposes. It's for accounting purposes only. A 1099-C is not always issued, so another thing to keep in mind. And now it's saying, but charging off the debt does not diminish the legal right of the original creditor to collect the full amount of the debt. This is case law. This is what the judges are telling you right now, so we don't have to be confused no more. You don't have to listen to what you're hearing. We went straight to the source. This is the furthest end of a law, how it plays out in court. So remember, this is your strongest claim to anyone could ever say to you, because whenever somebody says, oh, you can do this, you can do that, ask them, how does it play out in court? Case law. Something they call case law is precedent. This is what lawyers do. They use precedent. So all that law, lawyers don't even talk that way. So there's the proof right there. So let's get back to it. So now, they say, but charging off the debt does not diminish the legal right of the original creditor to collect the full amount of the debt. Charged off debt is not forgiven. Describing measures taken by original creditors to collect charge off debt. It say once a debt has been charged off, there are two ways an original creditor can recoup its losses. First, the original creditor may continue to collect the debt itself, either by utilizing internal collection staff or by contracting with a third-party agent, a collection agency, willing to collect the debt on behalf of the original creditor. So let's stop there. So remember, now when we're talking about collection agencies, it's two different types. So just because you see a collection, or you don't assume that, oh, they bought it. You've got to first distinguish, is this debt collector collecting on behalf of the original creditor, or has the original creditor sold the debt to the debt buyer? So make that distinction first. That's the first thing I want you to do when you see a collection, make that distinction. So now let's move on. Now it's a debts that's repeatedly bought in, oh no, this is, I got two same pictures. Okay. It's a associated with the debt. It's a, although Midland, this is the debt collector, did not receive account level documentation. Account level documentation. What is account level documentation? It's going to tell you in here, but account level documentation is basically the information all the way straight from the account. But then they're going to tell you in here exactly what the debt collectors usually get when they buy an account. That's why the purchase agreement is going to come back into play, so important. So that's when we talk about getting sued by a debt collector and forcing them to prove that they actually own the debt. Remember, you owing a debt is a statement. That's what they're trying to prove. No, you need to prove that they actually own the debt by way of the purchase agreement, because we see these things are in here buying as is, no warranty. So let's go on. It say Midland did not receive account level documentation. The purchase agreement required by AIS to assist Midland in acquiring documentation from the original creditor if necessary to respond to consumer disputes. I'm gonna read that again. I hope you can hear this clearly. The purchase agreement required AIS to assist Midland in acquiring documentation from the original creditor if necessary to respond to consumer disputes. So that's already telling you now that when a consumer disputes, they can't investigate internally because they need to go back to the original creditor. You listen to this in case law. So let's go on. It said a week after acquiring the account, GM Meyer account, Midland sent a collection error to the address stating and filing the current balance of the debt, offering to settle. They gave him a discount. It say they received the payment, but it wasn't her. So she telling them, no, this is not mine. So now they're saying Midland said they notified the credit bureaus that the dispute was stating that it's inaccurate information, and they're saying it's identity theft fraud. So it said the CRAs instructed, listen to this. This is the most important part I really need you to listen to. The credit bureaus is now telling you their process of what they did when she filed this dispute over the phone, telling them. She said, consumer states inaccurate information. Credit bureaus notified Midland of the dispute. No, I can take it back further. It say she noticed this on September 6, 2011. Hinkle filed a dispute with the credit bureaus explaining to GM Meyer did not belong to her. The credit bureaus, credit reporting agencies, as it says in here in the Hinkle CRAs, credit reporting agencies, notified Midland of a dispute stating consumer states inaccurate information. So this is that box. This is what the CRA told them. Remember, she ain't sending documentation in, so phone dispute. So now It say, and claims true identity fraud, account fraudulently open. So it says the credit reporting agencies instructed Midland to verify the name, address, social security number, dates, and balance. Do you hear what they doing when you dispute? I'm gonna say it again because this is mine. They're in court telling you this in case law what they do with the dispute. She said this ain't mine. The credit bureaus instructed Midland to verify the name, address, social security number, dates, and balance. This is all they're doing when you do a dispute. You going crazy with all this stuff, but all they're doing is telling them to verify personal information. But this is the beauty of having conflicting information. Now that you know they're doing this, you can reverse that. You say, you know what? Maybe I was born in 86, but I see they got 87 on there. When I call in, I'm going to verify with that 87, and I'm going to tell them to verify this. But you know they got 86. It's conflicting. We're not going, let's not get hung up there. Let's keep going on. So now, it's additionally, on October 20th, Hinkle sent Midland a written demand for validation of the debt, reiterating that she had never had an account with Meyer. It say Midland did not take action on Hinkle's dispute because it had already marked the account paid and ceased to report it to the CRAs. Another wrong thing that they do. This is when they say cease reporting, they don't mean delete it. They just mean they weren't updating it. But remember, Metro 2 guidelines say they must update if they're going to report every month. So now this is what they call a debt parking. So this is going to come up in the case too, though. But this is all these things I want you to be able to keep in mind. And then reverse, if you're on the other side, knowing that the credit bureaus aren't really disputing it or even doing an investigation, they tell them to match up. Let's go further and tell you what Midland did and make it even funnier, how they got caught. It says, so now it says the purchase agreement required Midland to obtain express written authorization from DRS before requesting account level documentation from the real creditor. So what that's saying basically is if a consumer disputes, the collection agency should go back to the original creditor and what they call account level documentation. So that's basically everything from the account. So now we're saying, okay, Midland says, or they act on behalf of me, or DRS promised to act on behalf of Midland as an intermediary between Midland and the original creditor. Investigate inquiries regarding the T-Mobile account. It say, but the parties disagree regarding whether the purchase agreement permits Midland to invoke that promise after closing. Okay. They say, so Midland sent a collection letter to Hinkle offering a 10% discount to resolve the debt. It say Hinkle orally disputed it, informing and reiterating that she had never had an account. Midland did not take action on Hinkle's dispute because they had already marked the account paid and ceased to report it. So now they get another debt, they purchase the debt, it say it was charged off. And this case is Hinkle versus Midland. I tell you, it's a beautiful case. It's giving you so much information on how they look at the debt collectors and what's supposed to go on. And so it says the account was sold as is, save for limited warranty by AIS that the information associated with the account was materially true and accurate to the best of AIS's knowledge. Midland acknowledged in the purchase agreement that the account may be an unenforceable debt. Do you see why this purchase agreement is so important? If you don't know that this purchase agreement says, I'm going to read it again. It says Midland acknowledged. So now this is Midland knowing that they purchased an account, but it says the purchase agreement that the account may be an unenforceable debt and may have little or no value. This is why we need to see the purchase agreement, because this is what Midland agrees to, and they buy the debt, but then they come after you for it, and then the company that they signed for told them it may be unenforceable and have little or no value. Let's go on. It say the only documentation Midland received was a data file containing electronically stored information about the debt, such as the amount of the debt, the name of the original creditor, the charge-off date, and the personal information associated with the debt. It say, although Midland did not receive any account level documentation, the purchase agreement required AIS to assist Midland in acquiring documentation from the original creditor if necessary to respond to consumer dispute. So now, that's my little note. So let's go on with the case. So this case goes on They keep going back and forth talking about, oh, so now in court they tell them, they said, when the credit bureau sent over the dispute, they told us to verify the name, the date, the address, the balance. Really, it's simple little things that they only got. They said, oh yeah, we matched it up and it verified with what we have in our computers. So they did what they call an internal investigation. They didn't go outside of the investigation. So that's another no-no. So when you go into and you look up this case, you're gonna see that the judge told them, like, hold on, you had a chance to go back to the original creditor that you know you have an agreement with to do, and you still didn't do it. All you did was looked at what you gave to the reporting agency, because that's what the credit bureaus do when you dispute. Credit reporting agencies, when you dispute, they only ask for simple personal information, and then the debt collector, all they do is go look at their records, like, oh yep, that matches what we got. That's what they sent them. That's crazy. So they aren't really doing investigation. And then in this court case, you're gonna see that that's not considered a true investigation. I'm gonna take it a step further. Whenever there's a discrepancy in the law says you go with the nature, the basic of the word. So you just look it up in the dictionary. So that's how you define words. Basically, a regular dictionary lookup. If you ever confused, that's the first place you go to. What is the raw meaning of this without any extra interpretation? So now this is what they tell them in this case. They say, all right, how do you do a proper investigation if you only verify with the information that you have internally? That's not a proper investigation. So imagine this lady is on appeal. This now, once all this came out in the court, how the credit bureaus really dispute not doing a proper investigation. That's why we go after them. And then how the what they call furnisher, we're gonna say that's debt collectors, original creditors. But then another law came up in this case, the S2B law. 1681 S2B. That's how you hold the furnisher accountable. So if you dispute directly with a furnisher, that's not considered a dispute where you can sue them for. But if you dispute through the credit bureaus, then now you can hold them liable under 1681 S2B. That's the law. Please go look it up and understand it. Make yourself familiar with that, because it's about maybe 5 or 6 laws that you really need to know to really understand this. I'll say 1681 EB, the reasonable procedures of maximum accuracy. Then we got 1681 O, that's the negligence after they mess you over. We got 1681 I, that's the investigation process of how they're supposed to investigate. And it's also telling them, you can understand in there, if they don't fix if they don't fix that misinformation, now they have a standard of deleting it. So that's why when you call out something inaccurate, you got to be detailed about it. You can't just say, oh, 1681 EB in a letter and say, oh, here the account is inaccurate. No, you must be able to go into detail what's exactly wrong with that account, because when you dispute that way, then now you activate that I claim about the investigation because you were detailed in proper dispute. I'm gonna give you a gem too. To bring EB back in a lawsuit, you have to have some other damages, what they say, open to the public. So you viewing your credit report is not good enough for EB. But if you apply for something after you dispute, then now you got the EB claim on top of the I claim, and then the O claim, which is negligent, and then we got the N claim, which is the willful. Willful is the hardest to prove. So that's why if you dispute multiple times, and let's say at least 3 times, then now we're talking about that's the willful. Willful means you just continue to disregard me, and it's obvious with multiple attempts. So that's where that willful come in. So now we're talking about, and then so here, after you do your dispute, the EB claim comes if you apply for something after you dispute and you get denied. Now that's proof for damages. So remember the process, and all this is in my ebook. It's coming out now. Actually, I got the link for you. Yeah, my how to fix your credit your own is in my ebook. It's out. Everything is in there. How to deal with star technical letters, when they ignore you, all the different ways you can sue the collection agencies, how you dispute properly, all of that stuff is in there. So yeah, back to what I was saying. So we got 1681 EB. Make sure to activate that. You got denial letters after the first dispute. Then we got 1681 I. That's the investigation telling them if they don't do a proper investigation, the item must be deleted. Then we talking about O. So we got EB, 1681 EB, 1681 I, 1681 O, 1681 N, and then we say 1681 S2B. So what is that? 5 laws? Those 5 right there will make you know more than everybody else that's talking about consumer law, which I hate. I don't even know. It's some dumb phrase that somebody made up again. So Fair Credit Reporting Act, according to that, those 5 laws right there, if you go and study those, how those come into play and how you use those, then now you a smoking gun. You a bandit. I qualify. You can be on my team and be an expert. If you go and understand those laws, you're able to implement them and take it all the way to the end, and you see how it works in your favor. Which law says you can have up to $1,000 per violation? Say, T Motivation, you stuck on this $1,000, ain't you? Remember, $1,000 is just the maximum for statutory damages. So what's statutory? When you activate the I, you are allowed what they call the statutory, and you get the economic damages or actual damages, what they call it. But then when you're talking about the willful, then that's when you get the punitive and the statutory. So that's this or determine. And then remember, here's another thing to understand about the courts. In one area of the country, judges might be looking at it this way, but then in another area of the country, judges might look at it different. So it's kind of hard to say what is in the law. You got to understand what case law is. And like I'm in the 11th district. That's Alabama, that's Georgia, that's Florida. That's these 3 states, 11 districts. But then when you start talking about other places around the country, those are different districts and they got different case law. So also understanding that as well. Excuse me. So that's where the precedents come in. If this has already been said in a judge in case law, and then there's not another case that happened after that supersedes that, then that's what we consider the precedents, the standard. So that's why case law is way more important than any other law, because you can have a law, but it's how it's interpreted and it's how it's implemented. So remember those 2 things whenever you hear somebody say a law. How is it interpreted and how do I implement it? I got collections that's been on there for over 3 years, which is the past statute of limitations in my state. And okay, I like that. Yeah, I'm glad you said in your state, because the statute of limitations is different for every state. And then remember, it's 2 different types of statute of limitations. It's a statute of limitation for them to sue you, and then it's a statute of limitation for them to collect on the debt. Usually are 2 different time frames. And then when you start talking about debts, remember, it's 2 different types of debt. They got liquidated debt and unliquidated debt. So remembering all of those, so T Motivation, I would ask you, is 3 years the statute of limitation for them to sue you, or is the statute of limitation for them to collect on a debt? Let's first visit that and figure out that are we going down the right lane. So, and then like prime example, here in Alabama, statute of limitations for them to sue them, I believe, is 3 years. But the statute of limitation for them to collect on a debt is 6 years. So after 3, they can't sue you, but then they still can collect after the 6. So remember, and then of course we know 7 years, really 7.5 years, as long as they can report it on the credit report. So that's something people to keep in mind too. Why 7.5? Because usually they like to calculate those 6 months before the average time before it goes delinquent. And then what is delinquent? If you want to calculate yourself, the first day of delinquency is going to be the first 30-day late where it never recovered, where you never made a payment. So if you ever, and then here's another beautiful thing when you're talking about disputing errors on your credit report. Remember, Equifax is the only one that gives you the first day of delinquency. So Experian and TransUnion already owe you that. But now when you calculate the first date of delinquency, you know that estimated date that they have on your credit report, you're now able to do the math and challenge that estimated date. So let's say, all right, and I see this on so many, that estimated date I don't think has ever been right. So here's another dispute reason too. You want your report to be accurate. So now that you know, you can go to your credit report and look at the first time it was 30 days late and count from there. So let's say 30 days late in March 2022, and it never recovered since then. So now we're talking about March of 2029. That's the 7 years right there if that's the first day of delinquency. So now we're talking about, okay, when did it get charged off? That charge off, you can start there for 7 years. First day of delinquency, if it takes 6 months, when it first report that collection, let's go there. That would be considered your 7-year time. So that's why I say 7 to 7.5 years. So first charge off, start your 7 days. So if that's in, we say March, we'll say just going to 6 months. That's September of 2022. So the estimated day of removal should say what? September of 2029. With you being able to do that math calculation, you can call them out on that estimated date of removal now. It says 3 years to collect on the debt. I'm not sure about the suing. Yeah, so if 3 years to collect on the debt, collecting on the debt is usually the longer time frame. But remember, it differs by state. So that's what I would make myself aware of. And if you're talking about, I got a collection of over 3 years past statute. Oh yeah. So yeah, remember the statute of limitations on collecting. If they are past that, then that's usually the long one. Then that's what I would call them out on. And then remember, it's another one too. They got to have a license to collect in your state. So that's another thing too that you always want to look at too. So T motivation, if you say it's been past 3 years, then that's an easy, simple something you can type up. Hey, look, it's past the statute of limitations for you to collect in my state. Once you send that through the credit bureaus and you dispute, they hit you back with that verified. Here's another beautiful thing about debt collectors. They only get one time. One time. It's a thing in the FDCPA or it's called basically strict liability. That means we don't care why it happened, when it happened, whatever. It happened. You got to pay up. FCRA is harder to build a case because they want to show a repetitive process. But with debt collectors, it's simple. So if you dispute that through the credit bureaus and they still talking about verify, they give you any hiccup and they don't remove that, then now that's what you have a violation. That will be considered a E8 violation because that's 1692. And remember, 1681 is talking about dealing with FCRA, and 1692 is usually FDCPA. That's my own correlation and how I get them up. So if you hear somebody start with 1681, they're talking about FCRA. If you hear them start with 1692, talking about FDCPA. So now we're talking about FDCPA 1692 E8. That's false misrepresentations. They can't say anything false. They can't lie to you. But then they also have to talk about you disputing the debt too, though. So the fact that they're reporting that and still trying to collect on, that's a false misrepresentation. That's a violation. So that's how I would come at that, basically. Just go ahead and dispute that. And if they don't remove it, then you got an official case. And what state you in? Reach out to me. I want to help you with the case. That's what I was saying. On me. I'll pay for the case. If they do that, you got the results, hit me up. Let's get them. So, yeah, Hinkle versus Midland. Please look that case up. That is some beautiful case law. They really go in depth in telling you the type of disputes that the credit bureau do. So now you know how to call the credit bureau out. They tell, and then also remember too, they use the eOscar system to communicate with them. So this was an event that she did over the phone. If it was a mail or a letter or something, they're supposed to share that with them. So they're supposed to see exactly what you sent them. And so that is another thing to understand, that when you do a regular dispute, they ain't really doing much with telling them to match up your personal information. But now that you know how to come at this. Now that you clear that that's all going on. And remember, case law, that's the strongest law that you're gonna get out there. How it actually goes in court. That's what case law is. How do the judges rule when people sue for certain things? So if you hear somebody telling you, hey, look, use this law, this is the first question I want you to ask them. Hey, how does that play out in court? And then they should be able to tell you the case law, because you got to remember, it's about precedent. So they should be able to tell you, hey, look, go look up this case. Just like I'm telling you, look, Hinkle versus Midland Credit Management. It's going to give you a great process. And then it'll also tell you how they're so scared of that purchase agreement because of what's in there. I'm talking about as is. It's just like, hey, we don't even attest to what we sold you, but you don't know it says that. But now that you know to call them out on that, it works to your benefit. I got some evidence to use against them too: verification letters, recordings, and dispute letters. Who are you talking about for the debt collectors? If you are, Maryland. I'm not sure if we got a lawyer in Maryland. That's a good question. I guess I have to check my guys and see if we got somebody in Maryland. I was hoping you were gonna say one of the sweet states, Alabama, Florida, or Georgia, or Michigan, or Texas, or California. I believe it's some more, but yeah, one of those sweet states. So if anybody in those sweet states, and they dealing with, in Tennessee too, debt collectors and FDCPA, man, I want to help you out with all those little cases. And then two, I know y'all seen that post I had about the refuse to pay 1692 CC. Go look it up. Like I said, strict liability. I refuse to pay in writing, in the mail, through text, email. If they respond back to you, then that's a violation. It's that simple. So if anybody is getting text or email, respond, refuse to pay. If they respond back, contact me. This is how you start the message with the screenshot. Say, you know what to do, Lawrence. That's all you got to do. They texting their email, and then here's the thing: texting or email, I refuse to pay. But if it's in mail, create you a nice little simple letter. name, date, the account number, the amount of the debt. I refuse to pay. Write your name. Take a picture of the letter. Keep that. And then if they respond back with something, holla at your boy. Send me the screenshot and say, Lawrence, you know what to do. So yeah, I just wanted to give y'all that little bit right here. I'm still on this journey. I got a little side note real quick. This is funny too. I'm still on this journey to clear up the misinformation because all of the gurus giving so much information. And this is not about her. This is about the post and the response to the post. I know she's like, oh, you talking about me again? But yeah, the bad information people giving out talking about freezing these secondary bills that don't even exist. They got information. And remember, you're gonna see in this case law how they dispute. So freezing some whatever, they don't care what these other bureaus got. So, but people are still responding and mad that I comment on the post to clear up the information. But I'm like, dang, are people this crazy that you don't want me to correct somebody in a public ad? I should do it privately. But it's 1,000, 10, 20,000 people on a post tomorrow. Oh, I'm about to go try it. I'm about to go do this now. Come on, do it. You know the part that frustrates me the most? When people do that stuff that doesn't work, but then they come to me and say, oh, I paid somebody such and such. Oh, I seen on this post. So they got all this misinformation that they've been hearing from these gurus that they tried that ain't work. And now they really need help. And I have to clear up the misinformation and tell them, like, oh, no, this don't work. That don't work. And this is why. I'm like, so dang, if you got to talk to everybody individually like this, why don't you just do it publicly in front of them and let them explain themselves to them why they're giving this bad information? And then I want you to go look at those people and go look at my people, the way I give you the information and how you can fact check the information I give you, because you can't just say something that sounds cute and I don't know where you got it from or I don't know how it works. And then here's the other thing about that. Can we use opt-out law? Please tell me you're being funny, because that's what I was just talking about. What is opt-out law? That's why that's what I was just talking about. That opt-out stuff doesn't do anything. Go look up the case Hinkle versus Midland, and the credit bureaus will tell you what they do during the dispute process. And it has nothing to do with asking anyone else to verify any other information, but the creditor or furnisher or whoever they're disputing from, they send a notification directly to them and tell them to verify your name, date, address, social security number, and the balance. That's what they ask them. That is not an investigation. I say that's why I gave y'all this case to go look up. I think you're gonna feel so powerful after going. And then it's only 26 pages last time I checked, so it's not a long read. You get them 26 pages, you're gonna be like, dang. It's going to tell you the lack of investigation that they do, and it tell you the horrible investigation the credit bureaus do. So credit report names. So now when you talk about suing them, you can sue the credit bureaus and sue the collection agency. No, okay, it doesn't work. No, it don't work at all. I don't have nothing to do with disputing at all. Like, that's something somebody cute made up, made it sound good. Because remember, it sounds good. But then the only question is, where in case law has that ever been talked about sharing information with these other reporting agencies that report other things about you? They don't go to LexisNexis and ask LexisNexis, hey, LexisNexis, would you verify this? No, that's not what they're doing. They're not going to these opt-out. These are vendors. You know what the vendors do? The only way they make their money is when other companies buy the information. So why would they let you freeze it and stop their money flow? That's not the nature of their business. The nature of their business is to charge other people to collect for your information. But remember, in this scenario, they're not even doing that. They don't care what anybody else is reporting. That's not the dispute process. It's either if you send in documentation, they upload it through eOscar to the furnisher, and we find that out by way of a lawsuit. They call something ACDV. And then the second way is if you don't see any documentation thing, they're going to hit you with something generic, and they're going to tell them to verify basic personal information that the damn company sent to them. But remember, I only came on here to tell you this to empower you. So now that you know this, you know how to dispute this. And then if they treat you that way, since you know this from case law, you know that you have a case. That's the beauty of what I'm trying to give to you right now. Because remember, a lot of people talk about credit repair, but a lot of people don't tell you how to sue. They haven't been suing. They haven't been teaching people how to sue. I'm that guy. When credit repair doesn't work, they come to me and we get the sue process. So I'm telling you the buildup of how you have a strong case if you have to sue by doing these specific things. So, and this is my rebuttal to the opting out. Don't worry about opting out anything that's a waste of your time. I don't want you to waste your time, because after you waste your time and you want results so bad, you know what that is? That's frustration. You angry. It almost makes you want to stop even trying because you're trying stuff that doesn't work. So that's the importance. That's how much I care. I'm looking at it that way. It's like, all right, it's 25,000 people looking at this right now, and I see all people commenting. Why don't I save them the heartache and frustration by just letting them know right now, here, right now, that it's a waste of their time? Ain't that how you show you care? You do it. But then here's the other part of it. I got to take the backlash of dumbass, retarded idiots hopping on my post talking about, oh, he trolling, he bullying women. I'm like, did you know I ain't even look at it though? And go look at me on a lot of men posts. I go harder on the men posts that do that and tell them. All I said was no on her post. Go look at the men posts and see what I say on theirs. But still, it's about calling out all the BS. I care for y'all that much because when people in my inbox that been in all these other people programs, they listen to what that person said publicly, but then they're privately getting help from me. I'm like, all right, so if I'm clearing up all this information that they giving out just to look good, but it don't really work for you, but I'm the really one that's helping y'all, I don't care what y'all say. I got the truth, I got the facts, I got the help, I got the results. So I'm coming out here and I'm exposing them publicly because it shouldn't look good, but then it don't work for you. And then when you find it don't work for you, frustrated, but then you don't come back and expose them publicly. You go privately still trying to get some help. So at some point, people need to know publicly that that's a waste of time and it's garbage. So I'll take people coming on my post hating me for exposing people, but then you know what they say? The truth hurts. And then a person that speaks the truth, they got to be strong enough to take the backlash of people that don't want the truth. Because the reality is the world we live in, you can't tell people the truth because it hurt. That like, imagine if we having hurtful conversations all day by the way of the truth. Nah. So think about it mentally though. If people don't want the hurt that the truth brings, you know what type of conversations people have on a regular basis? Bullshit ass conversations that don't involve the truth. It makes them feel good. That's my spiel for the day. I really want y'all to think about that though, when you start talking about the truth and the way it makes you feel, and then the way it makes you feel when you get certain information. Nah, that ain't how the truth world works. Nah, it ain't always feel good, but the best part about it not feeling good, it's a tool for you to use to better yourself. Because if you like the truth, then the truth hurt. Like I think about working out. That's why I love somebody that's physically in shape. I think that they really understand the mental fortitude it takes to actually be physically in shape. So it's like, all right, if I'm willing to sign up for that pain for the results, then that's how we treat the truth. Willing to sign up for that pain for the results and knowing people are being honest with you, they're genuine with you, you can trust them, and then y'all can build something together versus someone that's always making you feel good, but you don't really know if they're telling you the truth. Don't go for how it feels. Go for if it's the truth and how it benefits you. Can you pin the case that you mentioned? I'm gonna post this on my page, and then I'm gonna put the case in there on the post. So that's what I'll do for you. Sweet God's gift. So yeah, that's why I just wanted to come get y'all today. I say I'm tired of the bullshit. I'm tired of all these people. And then here's another thing too. I had this one girl post on my page talking about, who is you to comment? I'm like, who am I? I'm the person that's been doing this 12 years, 3 times more than this person that just had a job 3 or 4 years ago. That's who I am. I'm the person that people jump in their inbox when they listen to all of the hoopla and information that didn't work for them and they still need help. I'm the person that actually helps them. I'm the person that after 2-3 years of them going through credit repair process, they can get results from me in 2 to 3 months. Why? Because I'm using the right information and I know what the hell I'm doing. So that's who I am. The person that's been doing this so long. But my first post, or I had my Instagram account in 2012. It had 5 posts. Nothing about credit, nothing. But imagine I'm behind the scenes doing this for a whole 10 years. I didn't start posting and talking about this till 2022. So for 10 years, I'm not online posting about this, but then I get online, I seen so much misinformation out here. It was motivating. I'm like, if these people are getting famous off of lies and misinformation, the people gonna fucking love me if I got the truth for them and I care enough. Like I thought about it sometimes though. I be really stressing myself out sometimes when I try to help people because I be like, Lawrence, you better know you can help them. Do you feel confident? That's a whole nother level of care when you worrying yourself enough to where you don't want to even try to reach out to people unless you know for sure you can help them, unless you know for sure you've had the experience, unless you know for sure that this works because you've done it yourself. That's a different level of care. So I just want to let y'all know that's the difference. That's what motivated me to even come out and start doing this, because I was making my money behind the scenes, not needing online. But I'm like, whoa, it's so much information, misinformation online. Lawrence, they calling you. They need you. They need you to come clear up all this BS and then give somebody they can really depend on that cares enough to not give them misinformation that they haven't verified first through their own experiences. And then here's another thing about that too. I take it a step further with experiences. A lot of times something may work. Like you'll see people, they got hundreds of people in their group and they posting results from maybe 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 people. What about all those other 100 people? They're not getting results. They just posting the highlights. So something may work, and you can send anything into the credit bureaus that can work. But then remember, it's about, is it a repeatable process and will it continue to work for a large number of people? So just because it may have worked once or twice and you got it, we're not saying that that's the holy grail and that's the gospel. So that's something to keep in mind too. When you see people, oh, it worked here, it worked there. I would try to look for a stronger buildup and a repeatable process. And then, of course, explain it to me in detail and tell me, so people BS too. You're right. That's what you're right. Look, I think we saying the same thing. That's all I was saying. Yeah, it's a bunch of BS out here. And I just want to clear it up though. It's like, hey, I don't even live my life that way with lies. So it's easy for me to just speak my truth. And it really is the truth, because when I take in some information, I want to go try to research it and have an experience with it to know if it's true. And then how many experience I have with it that's successful, that's I can know how true it is, though. So that's how I do. And then there's stronger mediums of measurement. So, prime example, like I was telling you about the case law. People are saying laws, they're saying, hey, look, this is what it means. But then remember, this is still new to you. So you have to just listen to them. So it's like, all right, where do I go to get the information to feel confident as you are? That's the metric. Because it's like, so they need to be able to tell you, hey, look, where did I get this from? Why did I go? Why am I this confident? And that's the beauty of case law, because this is the law being put into place in actual court, and the judge is telling you how they ruled on it. So remember, ask for the case law, ask for the experience, ask for the judgment. We don't want to hear about 1 or 2 people that it worked for. Ask for run shortly up. We don't want to hear about 1 or 2 people that it worked for, but then you're not telling us about all those other people that didn't work for it because it wasn't a strong metric. Go for the real thing, and that's why I say attach. If you hear anybody using law, asking for the case law in court where you've seen that carry out. And I think that's how you're gonna be able to call out those people that's just saying, oh, go use this law, go chat GPT this. I'm like, chat GPT? What the? No, it's actually easier when you learn the right way. Oh, I learned. So that's why I say I got my ebook, DIY How to Do It To Yourself. All the steps is in there, and I put everything in there. I didn't hold back. And then also my free master class is coming up where I'm gonna get on class with y'all, get on camera with y'all, walk y'all through credit reports, walk you through the letter, walk you through the understanding, walk you through the laws that you need to be aware of, and not that you have to recite, that you have to be aware of, because you must know what's going on. And then, of course, how do we combat this and put it all together to get success in our process? So stay tuned. I'm definitely going to be posting about the training, and I'll see y'all soon. Case law, not consumer law. Oh, we still got this one on. See me on YouTube. Y'all in my background? These me in the pictures, by the way, some people be thinking I just got some posters hanging up. No, that's me. I'm proud of those little pictures. So, yeah, I see y'all soon. Hope y'all enjoy.